Wendy, are we ready to go?
I'm just making sure we're streaming 1 second.
No problem.
Good evening. I hereby announce that pursuant to Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in the notice which was sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, and posted on the bulletin board in Township Hall, and filed in the Township Clerk's office on January 3rd, 2023. Mayor Lucarelli,
Here.
Mr. Impreviduto,
Here.
Mr. Bontempo, Mr. Foster,
Here.
Ms. LaMountain.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Wendy. Can I have everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, we just finished our executive session upstairs. We have approval of minutes, Wendy?
Yes, sir. We have approval of the June 13th executive and public sessions, the June 27th public session, the July 11th executive and public sessions, and the July 21st public sessions. All of the minutes have been forwarded to the Township Committee for review.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Second.
Mr. Bontempo? Thank you. Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Impreviduto?
Yes.
Ms. LaMountain?
Yes.
Mayor Lucarelli?
Yes.
Okay, all the minutes have been successfully passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. At this time, we have, So before our public comments, I'm going to just read a brief statement regarding some of the things on tonight's agenda. The Holmdel Township Committee will be considering formal action to acquire the Crawford Hill property, which houses the Horn Antenna, comprised of Block 27, Lot 6 and 601, as well as an access easement on Lot 7 where the former Nokia building is located. The Township Committee previously authorized an appraisal of the Crawford Hill property, which has been completed and values the property at $1.92 million. Tonight's action will authorize good faith negotiations to acquire the property from its current owner for that amount. The governing body will also consider introduction of an ordinance authorizing the use of eminent domain in good faith negotiation, if good faith negotiations fails, as well as a bond ordinance to fund the cost of acquisition at the appraised amount. These ordinances will be considered for final adoption at a special meeting on August 22nd at 6:30 p.m. The bond would be supported by the Township's Open Space Recreation Floodplain Protection Farmland and Historic Preservation Trust Fund. In 2021, Holmdel voters voted to increase the collection rate of this fund, which is legally restricted to use for land acquisition and similar expenses. The bond ordinance does not contain any provision for a tax increase whatsoever. I'm excited that we are taking further steps towards preserving the Crawford Hill the Crawford Hill property and the Horn Antenna. Holmdel voters overwhelmingly supported increasing funding to the trust fund. As mayor, I look forward to responsibly using the trust fund to complete historic property acquisition that would benefit Holmdel for generations to come. Thank you. With that, I would like to open it up for public comments on agenda items only. Mr. Blumenthal?
Good evening, Ralph Blumenthal, 41 Stony Brook Road. Thank you for your statement. The Crawford Hill items, the ones I'd like to ask a couple of questions on. and we're pleased that you're making progress with this preservation project. Just like if you could expand a little bit, there are 3 items in Part 11 of the agenda. There's a resolution and then an ordinance. And what are those steps and how are they differentiated as part of this process? The third one is the bond ordinance that you just referred to and its relationship, a question in its relationship to the Open Space Trust Fund. Our CFO can undoubtedly verify it, but my understanding is from the budgets earlier in the year, there was approximately $1 million in that trust fund unused in prior years. $100,000 from 21, the bulk of it from 22. Because of the tax increase and the payment off of debt, that additional funds will be accruing this year. We are halfway into the year, a little more. So conceivably, the cash, uncommitted cash balance in the trust fund at this point could be close to $1.5 million. I'm not worried about the exact numbers. But shouldn't we first start using the cash that we have available in the trust fund, or is it part of the process that we need to make it the bond $2 million? Or how does that all work together as part of this process? Thank you, and again, I'm pleased to see progress. Progress is always great.
Thank you. You want to start with the procedural part of it? Thank you.
I'm happy to, Mayor. Thank you. As the commenter noted, there are 3 action items under number 11 on the agenda. The first action is a resolution authorizing good faith negotiations, bona fide negotiations for the acquisition of the Crawford Hill property. Under the state's Eminent Domain Act, the first procedural requirement as part of condemnation proceedings is to engage in good faith negotiations with the property owner to determine if it can be acquired without litigation. So that resolution authorizes the township's professionals to embark upon those good faith negotiations, which will be conducted based upon the appraisal that the mayor referenced earlier, and that is attached to the resolution. In the event those negotiations fail, the next procedural step would be to formally file in Superior Court a condemnation action, which cannot occur until good faith negotiations conclude, and good faith negotiations have to run at least 14 days. But the ordinance provides that if and when a determination is made that good faith negotiations are unable to bring about the acquisition, that the township could file in Superior Court to complete the taking. The third action is a bond ordinance that would support the proceeds for the appraised amount of $1.92 million. Those monies could be are authorized under the text of the bond ordinance to be paid to the property owner in the event a negotiated purchase is effectuated, or in the event that it is not, those funds could be deposited in the Superior Court, which is necessary in order for the township to complete the taking under the Eminent Domain Act. In terms of the use of those funds versus other funds, the bond ordinance does contain language allowing the bond amount to be diminished in the event alternative sources of funding are used, but the bond authorization would allow the township at once to complete the funding into court, which would be required under the Eminent Domain Act to complete a taking. I'll defer to the CFO if there's any comments about the state of the trust fund right now.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, so Bill, if you want to maybe discuss the other questions that
Yeah,
Mr. Blumenthal
regarding the trust fund, what we're trying to do is we're just authorizing the $2 million through the bond ordinance, as the attorney did say. Again, it has not been settled, so we're just giving the ability, in case we go over that, we just want the ability to go out and borrow the money in case we have to. Not to say we're going to have to, but we just want it just in case.
Is approximately 1.5 the amount that's in the trust fund at this point in time?
Approximately, but remember, we're also paying for maintenance of the parks with this, and we're also paying for various items with the Bayonet Farm and some of the buildings over there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Yes, miss?
Good evening. I'm Meredith Thomas. I live at 5 Bernard Drive. Ladies and gentlemen of the Township Council, thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to speak before you today. As I said, my name is Meredith Thomas, and I stand before you not only as a teacher in Holmdel, but also as a proud Holmdel resident. Today I come with a heartfelt plea, it sounds like you're taking the steps to do so, to preserve a piece of our town's history and its potential for a promising future. In 2005, I began my journey as an educator in Holmdel, and since then, I've witnessed the immense passion and curiosity of my students. Last year, they embarked on a unique project exploring the history of Holmdel, creating caches for original geocaches and engaging with the community in a very meaningful way. My 6th grade students designed and 3D printed a model of the Holmdel horn antenna as part of their geocaching project. They integrated a QR code leading geocachers to a podcast created by my students, delving into the history and significance of the site where the geocache is hidden and its surrounding area. This field trip to the Holmdel horn antenna site left a profound impact on my students and the community. Each time someone discovered our geocache near the horn antenna, members of the community thanked my students for the engaging history lesson. The geocachers were impressed with the clarity and creativity displayed by our young minds. And it's moments like these that reaffirm the pride of our students feel in being part of this historical town. The Holmdel horn antenna holds international significance. When I brought my mother-in-law, Harriet Thomas, from Wales to visit the site a few years ago, she was so overwhelmed with excitement at the sight of this national monument. She even wrote an email to the town council expressing her delight and emphasizing the treasure the horn antenna represents to our community. Today, I urge you to take action to preserve this piece of our heritage. I stand here before you to advocate for keeping the horn antenna intact right where it stands. Let us not forget that it was on this very soil that a groundbreaking discovery occurred, a discovery that reshaped our understanding of the universe. In addition to preservation, I also implore you to consider a restoration project for the site. Such an endeavor could not only enhance the visitor experience, but also open up opportunities for generating income for our town. Imagine a beautifully restored Holmdel horn antenna attracting visitors from near and far, contributing to our local economy and fostering pride in our community's rich history. I know you'll be passing an ordinance to engage in negotiations for the property and eventually exercise eminent domain. I extend my sincerest gratitude for your efforts, and I sincerely hope that you will find it in your hearts to take this one step further and ensure the preservation and restoration of the Holmdel horn antenna. In conclusion, I urge you to recognize the immense value of preserving this iconic piece of our past. Let us embrace our heritage and stand as stewards of history for future generations. With your support, we can preserve this invaluable treasure and continue to inspire young minds to connect with our town's remarkable past. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to working together for the betterment of Holmdel.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else this evening? Yes, Mr. Emma?
I have a question about what your statement. Do I leave it for later, or do I ask it now?
You can come on up, do it now.
Do I give my name and address? Well, Ron Emma, 32 Ladwood Drive. Thank you again for your efforts to save the horn antenna. But as far as your opening statement was concerned, I just have a question about, there's 3 lots actually, 6.01, or I think it is, and 6.0, and then you just wanted a part of Lot 7 for the easement. Why isn't all of Lot 7 being included in the eminent domain application? Because that's the part where the Lucent building is. And if you look at the plans, theoretically, the developer could still build a number. In fact, the plans show up to 20, 22 townhouses on there. So my question is, why wasn't that lot included in the eminent domain? Is it part of a negotiation process, or?
So I think if you remember when we spoke about this earlier and introduced a lot of this, the Township Committee had decided to leave that lot where the dwelling is. I think that's Lot 7, if I'm correct. part of the redevelopment agreement. So that, there's a blight study that was being done on the planning board, as you're aware of, and I think that's being done this coming Tuesday evening. That's going to be presented. The planner's going to be presenting that at that meeting. So we had decided to keep that as part of the redevelopment agreement and only preserve the other parcels of the property that, for open space that were on the slopes and where there's all the landscape easements are, where the horn antenna is. We felt that was the important area to preserve for open space and continue to, if there's something that the developer through a redevelopment agreement can present to the town or move forward on, I think we were willing to explore those options to try and repurpose that building.
Okay, now I want to talk as Ron Emma, planning board member, because I'm not going to say anything because I don't know what the redevelopment plan is. You just mentioned that it's going to be presented.
There is no redevelopment plan.
But it's being presented. That's news to me.
No, it's just a blight study.
It's not the actual redevelopment.
Correct. It's just a blight study. Yeah,
Okay.
Go ahead, Mike.
Sure. So the township committee, the redevelopment law follows kind of a back and forth process between the township committee and the planning board. So the township committee authorized an investigation to determine if Block 7 qualifies as an area in need of redevelopment for condemnation purposes. The blight study has been completed. A public hearing has been noticed for this coming Tuesday. So the planning board will be hearing a presentation from the planning board planner, reviewing the conditions of the building and that lot, and whether it's recommended that that lot be recommended as an area in need of redevelopment for condemnation purposes. After the planning board, which you sit on, makes that determination, it will then come back to the township committee. The township committee then has the option of essentially ratifying the planning board's determination and voting to declare it an area in need of redevelopment. But all that does is qualify that property under the redevelopment law. And as we've talked about in the past, the redevelopment law provides a significant toolkit to municipalities to address issues involving blighted properties, older buildings, things of that nature. Only then can the township committee contemplate entering and approving a redevelopment plan, which essentially serves as zoning specific to that lot, which the redevelopment law authorizes. And again, only if the township committee embarks upon that at that point in time, it would introduce a redevelopment plan here at the township committee side. It would go over to the planning board. It would then come back to the township committee again, and you would probably also, in that instance, have a potential redevelopment agreement that's being approved by the township committee. And finally, the referral was for condemnation purposes, so the township, under the referral, would retain the power to condemn the property in the event that it elected to do so for redevelopment purposes. So the condemnation there would be for redevelopment purposes. Tonight's action on 6 and 6.01 is for open space and recreation purposes.
Understood. So Tuesday night, there's not going to be a vote in the planning board about the redevelopment presentation. They're not making a vote Tuesday night.
The planning
Well,
board,
they might be approving the blight study.
The planning board will be making a recommendation to the township committee whether or not the property should be qualified
And that
as an
vote's going
area
to
in
be
need.
Tuesday night that I'm going to be involved with.
Well, you should know, Ron. You're on the
I don't
planning
have
board.
a notice. I didn't
Yeah,
get
I
the
don't want
notice.
to. I don't want to speak
I'm
for the
like-
planning board, but it's been noticed that way.
Okay, so
yes.
let me follow up that. So if there's going to be two outcomes. Yes, it's going to be okay for development, or no, it's not. Just to be clear, the recommendation that comes to the TC, the TC then has the right to override whatever the planning board says.
That is true.
So, okay, I got the process. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Ron. Good. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir. Back.
Jerry Buffalino, 20 Barbera Drive. I just wanted to echo Ralph's praise on you guys for doing what you're doing. Of course, it's all good stuff. And I do now understand, based on Mike's explanation of the bond ordinance and why you're doing it. But I do have a question. What's our intention to work with the county park system on this? They did agree, well, maybe not formally, but we do know that they do want to work with us on this and potentially pick up a significant amount of the cost of it. So what's our thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll just say that the township's always open to having discussions with other levels of government on cost sharing and different initiatives. If there are any conversations of that nature, they really are going to be behind closed doors because it's ongoing negotiation. If there's anything that can be publicly shared, we would share it. But I think that the township's considering all options to fund this and any other open space procurement.
Could we at least say we're going to explore it? Okay, that's good. All right.
Yes. And I just want to say, Ron, I think that was a good question because thank you, Michael. I think there was a lot of clarification there that probably needed to get out there. So I think that was good to say those things there. Yes.
Karen Strickland, 26 Hayward Hills. Again, thank you guys very much. Great job. What exactly does condemnation mean? Does that mean that the building will be, it's required to be torn down? It's going to be torn down? Like, I know that, in our thinking about this process, we would like, maybe a museum kind of things, a space and science kind of museum. So what exactly does it mean, condemnation?
There's nothing has been decided yet.
But if it gets to that point, and the planning board says, oh yes, it's blighted, it's condemned,
Sure.
and so it comes to you guys, and you say, yes, it's condemned. In my mind, condemn means tear it down.
Yeah, no, that's not. And it's funny, a lot of these terms kind of create connotations that aren't accurate. So if the township condemns something, it's its use of its eminent domain power. So if the township proceeds with a condemnation or an eminent domain and the court grants it, then the township gets title to that piece of property and all the structures on that property as of that date. So if, speaking hypothetically, if the township condemns a property with a building on it, once the condemnation goes through, the township gets title to the property and that building with all its, warts or whatever on that property as of that date.
And there's
So
no obligation to destroy it.
no. What I would say is, again, speaking generally, the redevelopment law does contain provisions where you can work with a third party to do things like you're saying, like taking down a building or constructing alternative structures. So, the best example of that is in Holmdel, we have limited experience under the redevelopment law, but the Bell Works project was all under the redevelopment law. And there's a very elaborate redevelopment agreement that was struck between the Township Committee and Somerset back in the early 2010s that, specified a lot of things that Somerset had to do, a lot of things that the township had to agree to, and that's how the redevelopment law works. It allows for that flexibility between, property owner and township.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Sorry. You're welcome. Yes, sir.
Patrick Trisquita, 56 Line Road. Great job on preparing the ordinances, fully 100% supported, and the bond issues. And I just want to clarify, after reading the appraisal and hearing the questions, for that it was the right thing to do to go after Lot 6 and take Lot 6 and 601 and leave Lot 7 alone for redevelopment. And I just want to reiterate that it's only for an easement across Lot 7 so that access could be made. It's not purchasing any piece of Lot 7 or anything. It's just an easement. And I think it came in at some small number, like $30,000 for an easement. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience tonight that would like to speak on agenda items only?
Good evening, Lance Loopy, Line Road. I think I have some confusion about some of the things that have been discussed here, so I'm probably going to say something that's inaccurate or incorrect. So I'm welcome to correction and any information that helps me learn. I did notice something on there about school bonds. We're going to So I was curious what the interest rate is on that. Interest rates been rising.
So there's going to be a public hearing. Is there going to be time where they can ask questions on that now, Mike, or should you do
Mayor,
it
I
now?
think that's on intro, so.
That's an
maybe-
intro, so you
yes.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. So question on that. What the interest rate on that, and then piggybacking off that, what's the interest rate that we're asking for that we think we're going to have on these bonds for this property purchase that may or may not happen, which I'm still even more confused now than when I walked in here. This fund that we have from the open space fund. So I'm curious how much is in that fund now? I don't know if that's that 1.4 million, but I don't think that was, we just introduced that increase 2 years ago. So I don't think that's 1.4 million from that. I'm guessing that's some other balance that's accumulated, and then the open space fund is adding to that. So I'm curious how much that open space fund annually we project each year, right, into the foreseeable future. I know we can't anticipate in perpetuity, but so the available funds, I think someone said 1.4, and I'm curious in the evaluation of the property that was done, the assessment, it was done comping everything to commercial property, but the developer is looking to build houses on there. So I know it's not zoned for that, but I'm just curious why it's not in parallel with the proposed use when they value the land. And then I'm confused about this lot 7 that just didn't make sense. Is lot 7 the building? I don't know. So it's the 1.92 for everything but the building? Okay, and then I'm just gonna pepper you. I'm trying to understand the eminent domain process. I know I could do some research on it, but I'm just curious. Like, so hypothetical situation, person purchases a property at 100. We say it's worth $80. We offer to pay 90, and they say take a walk. So I don't understand what happens next. How that process? Do we only pay the 80? Do we pay less than that? Do we pay more than that? And then the term length on all the bonds, both the school bond and the Crawford Hill property purchase. I'll leave with that. Thanks.
Okay. Can you tell us quickly, I guess, what the interest rate is on the Board of Ed?
The
bond?
Board of Ed, the only thing we're doing with the Board of Education is we're guaranteeing that in case they default. That's not our debt, that's the Board of Education's debt. State statute will not allow the Board of Education to borrow from the Monmouth County Improvement Authority. And for any school districts that do, they have to get the backing of the town. That's strictly in case they default on it, then we're responsible for it.
And that's something that we do every year, correct?
Every
Bill?
other year.
Every other year,
Every other year
okay.
we do that for them.
And the length of the bond, he asked?
I don't know, it's not our bond.
Understood. So we're just guaranteeing the bond?
We're just
Okay.
guaranteeing it. It's a lease. It's a lease purchase of equipment.
Correct. And then
Well, mostly school buses and stuff, and the computer equipment for the most part.
the open space fund, do you have an estimate on what that collects every
We
year?
collect 1.9 million roughly. As of today, there's probably approximately about 1.7 million in there right now.
Okay.
And
Thank
Bill, if
you.
we collect 1.9, how much are we using for the upkeep and maintenance that you mentioned before, just so we give them a real clear?
For the upkeep, we got about 400,000 for salaries, 300,000 for other expenses. There's debt service in there of roughly roughly 340,000. And there's
It's
also
about 800 a year? Okay.
Yeah, and there's also some maintenance, 150,000 roughly for items like the Harding House and stuff that needs to be maintained.
Okay, so it's almost about 850
Yeah, so
a year.
There's roughly $1 million sitting there that's for future use.
Thank you.
Yep. And we do not have any debt on the Crawford Hill yet, so until we go out and borrow it, we may not have to borrow it all, so there's no term or interest rate on that right now.
Thank you. And then, Mike, do you want to discuss, again, the eminent domain process and the zoning appraisal process? And I wrote lot 7. Was the question why was that not part of the eminent domain, I think? Right. So again, I'll speak to that, Mike, and then you can finish. Again, lot 7 is I think it's around 6 or 7 acres. It's where the 50,000 square foot facility is. parking and some other utilities there. The committee had decided that it was not appropriate to add that as for the open space. Through our eminent domain actions, we decided to keep that parcel separate through let it follow through a redevelopment process with condemnation, which that process is moving forward. Again, Tuesday night, the planning board will be getting a presentation from the board's planner on the blight study that was done on the building. They will make decisions at that meeting whether it should move forward into a redevelopment study or into a redevelopment agreement, and then that process will come back to us, and it'll be all part of open public hearings, et cetera, et cetera. But we felt that that was the right decision at the time, and maybe after this process is done, we can get into more detail as why. And then Mike can speak again about some of the other questions.
Sure, Mayor. Just to kind of give some overall perspective to everyone on eminent domain. So if you think about the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, it says that you can't take property without just compensation. So if the government wants to take property, there needs to be a process in order to provide the property owner with just compensation for the taking. So in New Jersey, we have the Eminent Domain Act, and that sets forth the procedure for a public entity like the Township Committee to condemn property. And in order to determine the just compensation, the Eminent Domain Act sets forth various processes, including the preparation of an appraisal, which is what the Township Committee approved at the most recent meeting where it acted on Crawford Hill. And that appraisal is attached to the actions that are on the agenda for tonight. In terms of the computation of the figure, I don't want to get into too much of a public discussion because it certainly can become the subject of litigation. But typically, and I think this appraisal on its face is based upon the highest and best use under the current zoning, which is how the appraisal was prepared.
We good? Okay. Thank you, Lance. Is there anyone else here this evening that would like to has questions or comments on the agenda items only? Okay. Okay, then seeing none, before I go to a vote, there are some things on here that I think are worth mentioning. We are approving 4 firefighters on this consent agenda, which I would like to note. I think that's wonderful. I'd like to commend Fire Chief Hernando and his squad's efforts on retaining 4 new volunteers. We are also hiring 2 police officers that were part of our budget approval. I'm very happy. The chief is very happy with his 2 new recruits. I wish them well. We're also promoting one of our officers to sergeant. I believe that was Savage. So congratulations to Jake. And then there's some other good stuff in there. We're approving the contract for the road improvement program, among other things, but I thought those were worth noting. So with that, is there anyone on the committee that has any comments or anything to say before we go to a vote? Okay, Wendy? Can I get a motion on the consent agenda items? Where are we? 2023-199 to 2023-224.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call, Wendy?
Mr. Bontempo? Okay.
Yes.
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 Mayor Lucarelli?
Yes.
Okay. Resolutions 2023-199 to 2023-224 have been successfully passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Now we have introduction of ordinances.
Next is introduction of ordinance 2023-09, which is an ordinance authorizing the guarantee by the Township of Holmdel, New Jersey, or payment of principal and interest on the capital equipment lease revenue bonds, Series 2023, Holmdel Board of Education project of the Monmouth County Improvement Authority. This motion is to adopt on first reading, publish in the Asbury Park Press, and set the public hearing for September 12th, 2023.
Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Wendy?
Mr. Bontempo? Yes. Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Impreviduto?
Yes.
Ms. LaMountain?
Yes.
Mayor Lucarelli?
Yes.
2023-09 will be set for public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. We now have a hearing on ordinances.
Next is hearing on ordinance 2023-06, which is an ordinance authorizing electric vehicle supply, service equipment, EVSE, and make-ready parking spaces.
Thank you. Jay, do you have anything that you need to add on this, or can I go to public comments? You're good? Okay, so do I have any public comments on ordinance 2023-06? Yes, Ms. Blumenthal.
Hi, Jenny Blumenthal, 41 Stony Brook Road. My only question on this, I've read it once or twice. This just is the money that would go to put all of the underground stuff, such as it might be, in place at designated parking spaces. So if and when the town decides to put up a gizmo that you can plug your car into, then there would be another charge to put those plug-in places. So there would be, this isn't the end of it. Is that right?
Yes, actually, this provides no funding. This ordinance is actually an amendment to our development regulations that provides certain requirements for private developers as well as public property owners for the installation of electric charging vehicle stations.
So it's just underground or preparing for like a gas pump were it to be a gas station.
Well, the regulations as proposed, and by the way, I should mention that this was generated as a statewide model electric vehicle.
Yeah, it says Murphy approved it.
Yes, and these regulations provide the framework as far as the installation requirements that would be needed for private development, typically commercial establishments, to install electric charging stations, both at the time of approval, and there's also a provision for future installations as well.
Okay, but you know, when they get through doing whatever this provides for, you still can't go plug anything in. You got to have another thing to install, whether the owner of the property, like maybe me or the town, would have to buy this other contraption to actually take my electric car there and plug it in.
I think the best way to view this is similar to the requirement that certain amount of parking spaces be required for any commercial development, as well as a certain minimum number of handicap parking spaces. This regulation mandates that parking lots for commercial uses include electric charging stations in certain instances.
So it's basically updating an ordinance and to comply with these new standards, correct?
That's correct. And to make the standards...
But you're not done yet when you do this. You still got to buy this other thing.
Well, we're not buying anything here. This is like an updating of an ordinance, so that when someone goes to build a commercial property, they have to comply with these new standards.
All right, so you're not installing any of this stuff.
That's
No.
correct. The township is not installing any of this stuff yet.
Hot air.
No, this provides the framework so that developers understand the requirement to make provisions for the installation of electric charge.
I'm not buying an electric car. I like gas.
All righty. Anyone else have any comments or questions on this ordinance? Seeing none, can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Wendy?
Mr. Bontempo? Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Impreviduto?
Yes.
Ms. LaMountain?
Yes.
Mayor Lucarelli?
Yes.
2023-06 has been successfully passed. It will be published in the Asbury Park Press according to law.
Thank you, Wendy. We now have the Crawford Hill action.
So the first action would be Resolution 2023-225, which is authorizing a bona fide negotiations for acquisition of Crawford Hill property.
Do I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Wendy?
Mr. Impreviduto?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bontempo? Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Ms. LaMountain?
Yes.
Mayor Lucarelli?
Yes.
Okay, 2023-25 has been successfully passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
The next is introduction of ordinance 2023-10, which is an ordinance authorizing acquisition by eminent domain of Crawford Hill property, Block 27, Lot 6, 6.01, and 7, partial easement for open space, recreation, and historic preservation. The motion to is adopt on first reading, published in the Asbury Park Press, and set the public hearing for August 22nd, 2023.
Motion?
Move.
Second.
Wendy?
Mr. Bontempo? Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Impreviduto?
Yes.
Ms. LaMountain?
Yes.
Mayor Lucarelli?
Yes.
2023-10 will be published in the Asbury Park Press and set for public hearing. The next for introduction is 2023-11, which is bond ordinance to authorize the acquisition of real property by purchase for eminent domain for open space, recreation, and historic preservation purposes in, by, and for the Township of Holmdel in the County of Monmouth, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $2 million to pay the cost thereof, to make a down payment, to authorize the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds. This motion would be to adopt on first reading, publish in the Asbury Park Press, and set the public hearing for August 22nd, 2023.
Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Wendy?
Mr. Bontempo? Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Impreviduto?
Yes.
Ms. LaMountain?
Yes.
Mayor Lucarelli?
Yes.
2023-11 will be set for public hearing.
Thank you, Wendy.
You're welcome.
We now have I'm sorry. Yes, Counselor?
Oh, sorry, Mayor. The last item we did place on the agenda is just simply a motion by the Township Committee to direct the clerk to schedule a special meeting for August 22nd, 2023, at which those two ordinances will be heard on public hearing and for final adoption.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Bontempo? Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Impreviduto?
Yes.
Ms. LaMountain?
Yes.
Mayor Lucarelli?
Yes.
Okay. The special meeting will be August 22nd, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. and it will be published in the Asbury Park Press as well.
Is it the public at 6:30?
Yes. There is no executive. Sorry if did I miss that, or did you miss that? I missed that, didn't I? Yeah, no, I apologize. Thanks for catching that, Counselor. You're doing a good job tonight. All right. Now we can move to departments. Administrator?
Thank you, Mayor. And just by way of noting, despite the length of this agenda, it is the summer months, and we are working on an abbreviated meeting schedule. You can see that by the length of the agenda, it's been active. And thank you, Mayor. I was going to note the same thing that you have noted, which is the various appointments that have been included on this meeting agenda. And while we were anticipating a quiet month of August, that has already been disrupted by our scheduling the second meeting, and I'm sure that will also be a busy night based on the Crawford Hill action that was taken tonight and the action that we expect to hold the public hearings on and move forward at the meeting on the 22nd. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jay. Bill, CFO?
Two items. The tax payments and pilot payments are due on Wednesday, August 23rd. Again, this was delayed due to the late mailing of the tax bills. Also, to let the governing body know, we ordered 3 items for the Public Works in 2021: the load packer body, a dump truck, an international cab and chassis. We just got notification we probably won't get them till sometime in 2024. So the supply chain is still holding us up. Again, we have passed the ordinance the last time, and wouldn't surprise me if the items we ordered are going to be 2 or 3 years in the making again.
Thank you for those updates, Bill. Mr. Collins?
I don't have any updates, Mayor, but thank you.
Thank you. We'll now go to boards and committees. We'll start down to my right. Committeeman Foster.
Mayor, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Just a couple updates at the Holmdel Police Department. For the next 2 weeks, the police department will be running our youth academy. This week we have 38 children ages 9 and 10. Next week we'll host 40 children ages 11 and 12. We look forward to a productive and educational experience for the participants. Just a couple other police news. As Mayor mentioned, congrats to Jake Savage on his promotion. Real good guy. If you saw him last week here involved with all the stuff in town, he's just an excellent guy. And also congratulations to Tom Foley on his retirement. He will be missed. The fire department had a very busy July. They answered 64 calls, and just to give you an idea, the average is about 40. So it was an extremely busy July. They responded to a Garden State Parkway for a fully involved car fire again, unfortunately, at exit 14 northbound. And just an update, as the mayor also mentioned, 4 new applicants. So Chief Fernando is doing an outstanding job over there with the new firehouse and everything, as well as another new membership application pending. And they also participated on July 27th at the Superhero Day at the Holmdel Swim Club. So they're out and about. They also performed a walkthrough of the villas, which is one of the facilities in town, so that firefighters could become familiar with the building should an emergency ever occur there. And just another reminder, the wet down Saturday, August 26th from 1 to 5 p.m. at the Crawford's Corner Fire Station. There will be live music and food. The public is not only welcome but also encouraged to attend. And a couple of first aid squad updates. They have been busy also participating in the community events. They were also at Superheroes Day at the Holmdel Swim Club. They were at the Police Department's National Night Out, and will also be assisting with the Police Youth Academy as well this week and next. The building renovations are still ongoing, but the completion is going to be in the very near future. And our volunteers continue to respond to numerous calls for emergency medical service daily in town, and also to several calls for service in our mutual aid towns. So far this year, they have responded to over 1,000 medical emergencies. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Committeeman. Committeewoman LaMountain.
Good evening, folks. From our Community Development Department, we don't have any updates this evening. I had the pleasure this week of sitting in on a meeting with the Holmdel Green Team. And they've been, for anyone that's not familiar with the Holmdel Green Team, they've been a part of Holmdel since, I believe it's 2008. They have on their agenda coming up, they will be taking a tour of the recycling facility. Members of the Holmdel Green Team will be visiting the Mazza Recycling Facility in Tinton Falls on August 23rd. They'll be educated on single-stream recycling, how material is processed and packaged for reuse, and how various machines are used in the recycling process. Some of their recent activities include establishing a relationship with the Holmdel School District, investigating municipal use of electronic vehicles, developing a list of links to sustainability topics which are now available on the Green Team's webpage, which includes energy, food, recycling, plants and trees, as well as health. If you would like to connect with the Green Team, they invite Holmdel residents to learn a bit more about them and share resources displayed on their webpage, which is holmdelgreenteam@gmail.com, and they are more than happy to have Holmdel residents join in their meetings. So again, if you go to holmdelgreenteam@gmail.com, you can learn more about them and see when their meetings are in fact scheduled. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Committeewoman. Committeeman Bontempo, do you have any updates virtually this evening?
Try that.
Yep, go ahead.
Is it okay now?
Yep.
Okay. So thank you. So a couple quick updates. First, on the Holmdel Library. Library had about 6,000 people visit the library in the month of July. So great activity over the summer. Over 4,000 items were checked out of the library, and and they actually had about 50 new people register for library cards. So staff over there is doing a great job. They're also working with the administration and the Bellworks people for doing some new ADA compliant doors on the library. Hopefully we'll have some updates on that for the next meeting. And additionally, we are about 2 or 3 weeks away from getting the new display cases in the library, which the first display is going to be themed with the Holmdel veterans, which leads me to the Holmdel veterans updates. The committee met last week. Our next quarterly meeting with the veterans is going to be on September 14th at 10 a.m. in the Bellworks meeting room. And if everybody is not on the list, would like to join, they could email the administration, or they can reach out to vetsinfo@holmdeltownship.com. Or anybody in administration can certainly help them get it registered as well. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Committeeman Bontempo. Deputy Mayor Impreveduto.
Thank you, Mayor. From the Department of Recreation, the summer recreation program finished up last Friday, concluding a great 6 weeks. Registrations increased from 289 in 2022 to 439 in 2023. Participants enjoyed weekly events such as a water slide, magic shows, ice cream truck, the lizard guy, I'm not so sure who that is, and much more. The swim club has 27 days left in the season. Membership for the 2023 season is well above prior year. The Holmdel Hurricanes swim team captured the Monmouth County Swim Conference Championship for the 5th consecutive season. The Holmdel Hurricanes dive team brought home a 3rd place finish in the New Jersey Swimming and Dive Conference Championships. Save the date for the Daddy-Daughter Campout on Friday, September 22nd at Bayonet Farm. Registration for this event will open soon. And the annual Bayonet Farm Trail Race will be held on Sunday, October 23rd. There's a 1-mile kids race and a 4.1-mile trail race. Registration's open at the Rec Desk registration page on the Township website. From the Board of Education, the annual summer cleaning and maintenance is currently underway by our building and ground staff. There are several remodeling and construction projects which are underway, including the conversion of the grade 2 and 3 library at Village School into a mixed usage space of both media center and classrooms. This project is being completed in order to create additional classrooms to support a growing enrollment. The complete remodel and modernization of the Indian Hill Music Room, funded in large part by the annual gift from the Holmdel Foundation for Educational Excellence, is coming along well with all demolition completed, ceiling and wall paint applied, and prepared for the installation of the new acoustic panels and cabinetry. The high school's main entrance is being retrofitted in order to create a safer point of ingress for visitors at the security checkpoint. This summer, the district has had a number of students engaging in valuable summer learning opportunities. 130 students are participating in our grant-funded summer step-up programs. 50 students are participating in extended school year program. The high school student athletes are hard at work training for their fall season. The College Board has released their AP Scholar lists for the 2022-23 administration of the advanced placement tests. 119 Holmdel High School students were recognized. To qualify as an AP Scholar, students must score 3 or higher on 3 or more AP exams. In total, 80% of all Holmdel High School students taking AP exams scored 3 or higher. So another wonderful accomplishment for our school district. This year, the school district underwent an annual audit. The process entailed a full review of the district by the New Jersey Department of Education, evaluating 5 different areas: instruction and program, fiscal management, governance, operations, personnel. To be designated as a high-performing district, scores of 85% or higher must be achieved in each of these areas. The district exceeded the required score in all areas, once again achieving the high-performing designation. So we're pleased to see the continued focus on advancement and education of our school district. Thank you, Mayor.
Great job. Thank you. Okay, so a few things here. The road improvement program, most of you here probably saw this evening, but the contract was awarded to PA Construction for the township's 2023 Road Improvement Program Phase 2, and that work is anticipated to begin in mid-September with the completion expected in the beginning of October. Last week we had Holmdel Township and the Holmdel Police Department hosted the National Night Out right here at Town Hall. I was joined by Committeeman Foster. It was a wonderful evening. We had time to meet and spend time with many of the residents. Thank you to all of our emergency responders, police officers, firefighters, and first aid volunteers who work so hard to keep us and our community safe. I would like to especially thank those who brought the donations of food for the food drive that benefited St. Mark's Kitchen in Kingsburg. I also attended Saturday evening. I was very privileged to attend the Jersey Shore Chinese School Awards Dinner. That was right here in Hazlitt at the Holiday Inn, and it was a wonderful event. A few other things. We had Sergeant Foley, who was, I believe, 23 years with the Holmdel Police Department, retired last week. And I was at the, again with Committeeman Foster, was at the Senior Center, and we had a small ceremony there with his family, and we had some food, and got to listen to him reminisce a little bit about his time at Holmdel, and we'd like to wish him well with his family and his retirement. I also, I played golf last week for the Holmdel PBA golf outing. It's their major fundraiser every year. That was a wonderful event at Navicent Country Club and a wonderful dinner and ceremony. So that was a great job to the Holmdel PBA. And lastly, I just wanted to mention there's a gentleman that we dealt with in Holmdel. His name was Joe Hartnett. He unfortunately passed away this week. He worked for a company that helped us recruit administrators. I had the privilege and honor meeting Joe when we went through some processes when we hired Jay and prior to Jay. And I believe other Committeeman Bontempo, I believe you dealt with Joe when you hired Sharon, and he was a gentleman. He was a good guy to work with, and we just want to give our condolences to his family. And that's all I have this evening. Anyone else? We're all done. All right. I'd like to make a motion to close the meeting and open it up to. Oh wait, no, open up to public comments. I'm sorry, not close. Close our part. Open it up to public comments. Whoever would like to be first, come on up, Mr. Kastner.
Bill Castning for Takalusa Drive, Holmdel. First, thank you for the action taken this evening regarding Crawford Hill and the horn antenna. Very much appreciated. And hopefully it'll continue on August 22nd. Anyway, minor bone to pick because I go to Holmdel Town Center for breakfast almost every morning before I go to work. And from Laurel Avenue, I make a left in there, and you got Palumbo's, Rook Coffee, and you have Holmdel Bagels. And there's a no left turn at the first intersection, no left turn sign, which is mostly ignored by everybody, including school bus drivers, utility companies, John Doe and Jane Doe, everybody, and it drives me insane. And either the sign should be taken down or it should be enforced. I've seen potential issues arise there, and I even told a state trooper who made the left turn, you shouldn't have done that. What sign? Most of the people say, what sign? So if you want to make up for your lost court revenue from PNC and the legalization of marijuana, there's a good place to do it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bill. I will mention that to the chief. Next, do we have anyone else in the audience this evening that has public comments or questions? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, committee. I guess you're here knowing I'm here again for.
I'm sorry, sir. Your name and address, I
I'm
apologize.
sorry, Joseph Tetro, 280 Middle Road. Has anybody reached out to anybody, to Hazlitt or anything for the flooding down on the property down here? I mean, just that little rain we had on July 24th, the bridge was holding back so much debris that the water wasn't going under. And then obvious, once it did go down, it's all down in the back of the property on Holmdel's property and Hazlitt's side. And now it's starting to flood on mine also because there's so much vegetation growing over the creek. And I mean, my property just keeps flooding from the back now. You know, it's holding the water. It can't, you go out to Route 36 bridge where it's going, and it's loaded with rat tails and stuff growing in there. There's no distinct creek for the water to run. It's a matter of seeping in to get out. You know, I've called the mosquito commission several times. Called again today. I called 2 weeks ago. She was going to come out, and nobody seems to respond. I mean, I don't know if anything's ever going to be done here or what. I mean, my property here is just fading in the back with all the washouts I got there. I mean, what do I do now? Who do I reach out to? I reached out to the senators often, and nothing seems to happen on that end either. So I don't know.
Is there anything that we could do through the county to try and get some assistance
Just
on
cleaning. I mean, I'm not asking
Yeah.
you to dig it all out at this point. Just clean the blockages that are there to help it drain. I mean, it's Hazlitt and Holmdel side. When I told you the last time I went to the meeting, I went to Hazlitt's meeting, you know, and I spoke there, and the mayor says, we have plenty of flooding in Hazlitt. And that was my answer. You know, I didn't get any answer from him. And they were supposed to tell the engineer to call the mosquito commission, and I spoke to her, and she said, nobody's ever called me. You know, and she knows. I mean, I guess they're backed up, you know, and I don't know. It's just so frustrating.
Mayor, I'll follow up with the Mosquito Commission to find out where they are in terms of any scheduled work or scheduling additional work if needed.
All right, thank you. Very much.
All right, thank you, Jay. Yeah, let's make sure at least we try and see if there's anything that they can do to help out here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tetro. Yes, Peter?
This might be on. Peter Maneri, 59 Bethany Road, Holmdel, obviously. Anyway, this may be on your radar. I'm not sure. I haven't been at too many meetings. But it's the tractor-trailer traffic on Bethany Road, Holmdel Road, and also now Telegraph Hill Road. With tractor-trailers making a left off of Telegraph Hill Road onto Bethany Road, cars have to back up. Tractor-trailers making a right onto Bethany Road at the Gulf gas station, the cars have to back up to let the tractor-trailer go. You have Clayton cement trucks at the south end of Holmdel Road doing 50, 60 miles an hour, big dump trucks doing 50 miles an hour. So Google Maps and Waze are directing these trucks all around us. And now we have, in the summer, it's only temporary. You have the short traffic coming through Holmdel Road, Crawford's Corner Road. Holmdel Road was almost back to back, you know, bumper to bumper. Never seen it before. The only thing I've ever seen is the other one, Bethany Road and Dearborn, during the holidays, bumper to bumper. But the short traffic, I don't think you're going to change that. But the tractor trailer stuff, you really have to look at Bethany Road on the south end. They repaved it. They didn't do it the north side, which was supposed to have been done, the township said, 5, 6 years ago. And I believe back in the day, there was a 3-ton limit on that bridge by the sweet shop. That's where Dunkin' Donuts is. It's no longer there. That bridge hasn't been touched in 60 years maybe, unless somebody could tell me different. But if that's a 3-ton bridge, somebody should be looking at that soon too. So I just wanted to put it on your radar and see, maybe make some calls. But
Yeah. No, thank you, Peter. And I know where you live, you know, and I know how busy that road is. And I know that I've seen an increase in trucks there
And
too.
I'm off the road.
No, I know.
God bless. I mean,
I
the
don't
people
know.
on the road,
Yeah.
it rumbles.
No, I know.
It
And I don't
rumbles.
know the restrictions with
I
the
know, and
vehicles, but I
brought
will
this up
mention
to
it.
certain people before, I'm sorry, and, you know, I can tell you this, though. For a fact, Bethany Road gets closed certain times. The railroad's there, you know, it's tracks there. Guess what? Everybody, cars, everybody goes a different way. They have to. So if we could redirect some of the big trucks, because you got ShopRite, Dearborn Farms, Aberdeen, so they're running back and forth, and then you got the trucks coming from the south onto Holmdel Road, and now they're coming from off the, you know, by Red Hill Road and down and up Telegraph. So there's a lot of movement, plus the road damage for Holmdel that has to be paid somehow.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Like I said, I don't know the restrictions or if there are any on those roads, but I'll have the chief take a look at that.
Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else this evening that would like to come up and make public comments or statements here this evening? Okay, see. Come on up.
Lance Loopy, Line Road. Actually, just two questions. One, based on your comments about the police activity and the fire department activity, I'm sorry for all the calls. Is that normal for summer? Like that spike, you said, I think you said 60 and 40 is the normal, or 70 and 50 is the normal, whatever it was. Is that normal if we look year over year? Is summers normally more active than others? Just curious.
They pointed it out, I think, because it's an abnormality.
I got you. Okay. But, and then you brought up the fire on the Parkway. Are we reimbursed? Is the town reimbursed when we have to assist for fire, police, EMS?
I don't believe so, because they're volunteer companies, and if they get reimbursed through insurance, I think that's how they get reimbursed, if I'm correct. But I don't want to assume, because I don't know exactly.
But the town is.
The town does not get, it's part of a service, yeah.
So it's our expenditure, we eat that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just,
Yeah.
just curious.
Yeah, no, it's not a paid service.
It's everyone in this room's money, so that's why I ask all
Well,
these
of course,
questions
yeah.
about money. So.
Yeah. No, I don't believe we get paid for any
I'm not
type
asking
of.
Profit.
No, I understand, but no, it's no, the answer.
Several months ago, last year sometime, there was talk about gas station for police cars, things like that. Not a gas station, but gas pumps on site. Is anything ever happened with that?
I don't know if it was there was the diesel. I know we put diesel tanks in over at the
Okay,
DPW.
so it was just diesel.
Jay, do you have any
A new
anything?
fuel tank was installed, that was completed late spring.
Okay, but that's just for our diesel vehicles. So
I believe
nothing
so.
for
I don't know
gas.
where we fuel our police cars fueled at gas
Exxon and
stations.
Hazlet. I see them all the time.
Okay, so then they're not being fueled
Which
here.
is like one of the highest priced gas stations in the area. So I don't understand why we make that choice. I'm sure there's a reason. I would hope that we're not paying whatever the pump price is, but that is one of the higher priced gas stations in the area. So I know that one, and then the other one in Holmdel, the other Exxon in Holmdel. Well, it adds up. We drive a lot of cars.
It's a legitimate question. We'll.
Well, I'm
it's
responding
fine.
to the
It's fine.
commentary in the back of the room.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah. How many police cars do we have?
20?
20?
Probably about more.
30?
Yeah.
Okay, they drive how many miles a year? Okay, so all that money adds up. So, for those who have a comment, whatever. I guess everyone has unlimited funds. My no turn on red sign, still haven't heard back, so I'll reach out to Officer Minoski, Patrolman Minoski, but I haven't heard back on anything from that. I don't know why we can't take the sign and just put it on a signpost and move it up 15 feet. It's not on the street sign, but just on a sign. I see police officers, Hazlet, Aberdeen, Matawan, Holmdel, all make a red on red at that sign. So I don't know if they're just not seeing it. Just goes back to some of the other comments. From
Which
some
one
of
is
the
this?
other
Is this
people.
the one on Bethany?
Line in Bethany.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So going back to what someone said about Palumbo's, there's no left turn there. That sign's been there
Well,
for years.
that's in a parking lot.
Understood. I'm just
yeah,
saying,
yeah.
but just going back to that people disregard that sign all the time, just like they disregard that sign all the time.
I can follow up with Sergeant Minoski.
Okay. Sergeant. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to offend.
I think he's a sergeant. But maybe I'm wrong.
Okay. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Lance. Yes, Jay.
Jay Yanello, 18 Ladwood Drive. We just had a pretty bad storm last weekend come through, and it knocked down. We lost another tree on the Green Acres across from our house. We, as a community, for the death of one of our neighbors, bought the last tree that we lost on the Green Acres. It cost us over $700. So I'm wondering if the town will pick up the tab to replace the tree we lost. This is on Ladwood Drive. And preferably like a maple tree or something, not one of those itchy ball trees. So can someone, that's what my neighbor said, we don't need any more of those. What's the process for assessing when we lose trees on Green Acres? I don't know, do we have a formal process?
I have no idea.
Okay, so
I'm
maybe
sure
someone
we could
could look at
into
it?
that. Yeah, I don't know. That might be,
Yeah.
is that a Victor question?
Yeah, I want to
Okay.
compliment Victor. They came out in pretty short order in 2 days and got that tree out of there. The other thing is, this is kind of petty, but the cell tower on the property where they're putting the natural gas regulator is one of the most decrepit looking cell towers in the state. The paint's peeling off it. It's horrible looking. It's an eyesore for anyone who takes the time to glance over at it. I'm just wondering who is in charge of making sure that these things are maintained so they're not a horrible eyesore in town. And I don't expect you to know.
No, I
this
don't think
answer.
I don't think it's the township, unfortunately.
Okay.
But Jay could probably look into it. Those are usually privately owned, and then they're on property that they lease.
Yeah.
I like who regulates it. I don't know, but it's not the township.
I'm sure it's owned by either AT&T, T-Mobile, or
Correct.
Verizon, and they can afford to paint it. So I'm just saying maybe that should be on the horizon. Thank you. That's
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone else this evening that has public comments or questions? Seeing none, I'd like to make a motion to close the meeting.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.